because they all felt that same emotion. Like all these movies that were supposed to be anti-war movies end up getting mystified and get turned into the lore of Marine Corps culture. Like we have a good way of flipping the script. Like, a personal example. I remember when I was the last day of MCT, I got a portable DVD player and I had a copy of Starship Troopers, and my entire platoon was literally huddled around this little 7-inch LCD screen watching Starship Troopers.
Welcome to How I Embraced the Suck, a podcast where you get to hear from veterans what life in the military is really like. I am your host, Walt, and before we start, you should know that I do not censor the show in any way. You have been warned. Well, let's skip over it.
Yeah.
Consider it unmentioned.
Yeah. Which is why I didn't bring it up in our pre-interview stuff.
But yeah. Okay. Yeah, cool. Yeah, let's get into it. Today we got Rex with us here, and he was into like Seaburn stuff and whatnot. So what's up with you, Rex?
Not much, just trying to enjoy a day off of work and getting what little free time I have to finally record with you, as you reached out to me, I think like a month and a half ago, and then life took over.
It is what it is.
Yeah.
Scheduling can be tough.
Oh, don't I know it?
So, yeah. Well, cool. Yeah. What's your military background? For the listener, fill them in.
Joined the Marine Corps in late 2008. Took the CBRN, or Chemical, Biological, Radiological, Nuclear Defense Specialist job, which I regretted almost immediately, because after boot camp and you get that adrenaline thing going, you really want to do something more active, but you're kind of set once you sign the paperwork, you're kind of set in stone of what you can do.
Right.
Yeah. So I did.
You're stuck.
Yeah. You're shit out of luck. You can get out of it, but you can't get out of it in a really positive way. We had one guy who he failed too many tests, so they dropped him back to the class behind us, and then he intentionally failed again to get reclassified in a different MOS. But because they're, I don't know exactly how it works, because I don't think anyone really tries to do that shit too often. He got reclassified. Where we were at CBRN trainings at Leonard Wood, Missouri, so an Army base.
Okay.
They also train military police there, certain engineering occupations, and motor T.
So less desirable MOSs.
Yeah, for the most part.
Well,
I think he got reclassed as motor T. So I don't remember all the details, because no one really. I don't even remember his fucking name. I just remember he looked like an alien. Like, he had a weird bulbous. He had a bald bulbous head. He kind of looked like he kind of looked like a minion. I mean, minions weren't a thing. Minions weren't a thing in 2008, but he looked like he looked like a tanned minion.
He was a minion before minions were cool.
Yeah. And so I never heard from him again after he got pulled out of our section. But I was stuck there, and the only way you can get out of that is if you re-enlist in Lat Move, and I sure as shit wasn't doing that.
Right, right, because that's a whole new time commitment, right?
Oh yeah. Well, the funny thing about this, and this is what really started that pissed me off about the military, and this was before I even went to boot camp. I was originally going in for an intelligence MOS, because I was a smart kid, smart-ish. I wanted to go intel, right. And so
Marine intelligence. What isn't that the oxymoron of the century?
Well, I was originally trying to join the Army, because the Army was gonna give me a contract for human intelligence collector, which is what I really wanted to do.
Sure.
And my natural rotund state didn't help me in that situation. So I got rejected at MEPS.
Oh.
I got rejected at MEPS the first time, and then I was kind of like middling around, and then oddly enough at a GameStop, because I was a big gamer back then, I was in GameStop like once a week. I ran into a Marine Corps recruiter, and next thing you know, they had a spare recruiter who was just waiting on orders, who was just doing nothing but PTing fat kids.
Right.
So I dropped like 40 pounds in 6 months.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Wow. The teenage metabolism, man. That's awesome.
Yeah. And then next thing you know, I go back up to MEPS. Well, actually, I lost 25 pounds and I went back up to MEPS. And
Okay.
then I passed. So I, became enlisted. I enlisted in the Marine Dep program, and they don't give you a job immediately. Their system is pick 3. And
Right.
I got this list of options, and none of them were Intel. And I said to my recruiter, "What the fuck?" And they're like,
Right.
"Oh, we gave that to this person." And I find out who it is, and I already knew who it was because she was dating a friend of mine. So it was a female who was currently a junior in high school, and I was already a high school graduate. So apparently, they give priority to the guys who are joining in, who are signing up when they're underage. So this person, this person was going to be in the you can sign up at 17 with parental consent, and you can dep in to delayed entry while a junior in high school.
Okay, right.
So
right. Gotcha.
This person is literally, they signed up as a junior in high school, so they're going to be, it's going to be a full year before they even go to boot camp, and
right.
I still can't get that spot. How does that make sense?
and you're here ready and waiting.
Yeah. I'm ready. I wasn't ready to go right then and there. I didn't go for another 3 months, but still, I'm like, I was like, what the fuck, dude?
Right.
So my options, the options I picked were, I picked the CBRN was the top one because I was thinking to myself, I don't really want to go into combat and war zones, this, that, and the other thing. And then the second one I picked was air crew. And then the third one was some sort of like data comms type thing.
Okay.
Yeah. And then, so that was my fate. And then come boot camp, we get to the rifle range, and all I'm thinking to myself is, I done fucked up. So I was like trying to figure out any way I could. And there's no way you can change your MOS.
Right.
So unless you done fuck up, you're kind of you're in your lane. So boot camp again was a shit show. Some dude apparently a few recruits made a complaint that a drill instructor was being overly physical with recruits.
Oh, shocker.
Yeah, I don't know it was a different platoon, but from the only information I have is that essentially the wagons got circled, and they convinced, I think it was like 4 or 5 of them, they convinced all but one of them to change their stories, or what they were saying and what the other people were saying didn't quite sync up. I don't know all the detail. It wasn't my platoon, but one guy was like, heels in the dirt, and they publicly NJP'd him in boot camp in front of the entire company.
Whoa.
So that was
wild,
interesting. And then when I was in the fleet, I ended up running into someone from that same company who was actually in that platoon, and he's like, "Oh yeah, he knocked me the fuck out. He was quarterdecking us, and he kicked me in the head and he straight up knocked me out."
Wow.
And apparently, eventually, I believe that, I don't know the full story. Again, don't know all the details, but from the grapevine, I heard he was taken out of the company and put into like an HNS battalion, and he wasn't given platoons anymore.
Sure. Okay. So they recognized a problem. They just didn't want to deal with it in the public manner. They wanted.
Yeah. I mean, there was. Apparently this is what happened with one of my drill instructors, and I never noticed it. I guess because I didn't see him that day. But apparently he showed up in the morning still drunk from the night before.
Oh, seriously?
Yeah, I'm like, I didn't notice. And then like later that day, and there was a funny thing that he was the heavy hat, and he was actually our favorite drill instructor eventually.
Mm-hmm.
And he wasn't totally a piece of shit in my opinion.
Right.
He he came into and he talked to us and he like gave this whole like speech about honor and dignity, and he apologized to all. Like, he actually like legitimately apologized to us, and we're all like,
Huh.
we're all sitting there like, the fuck you apologizing to us for? We don't.
Back in the old Corps, this was normal.
Oh yeah, back in, I'm sure. Like I still heard those stories, but I was just like, okay, yeah,
Right. Totally unexpected.
yeah. But I looked when I got further down the road, I looked him. He was still in the drill field. I assumed so, anyways, and I looked him up on MarineNet, because in the Marine Corps internet, whatever, like they're weird, like look up everything, do everything website
Right.
thing. You can look up individual people. And I saw that he was in H&S Battalion, still on Paris Island. So I'm like, I guess they pulled him out of training people, or they put him into, because they usually I think we found out in like the first week that the drill instructors, the receiving drill instructors are not black belts, even though they wear them. They're not officially given that designation of a senior drill instructor, even though they wear the black belt of one. And it's because and from what I gather, and one of them even implied to it that they're there for a reason.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
This is not a posh assignment necessarily. No. This is not a reward. No.
And then from there, School of Infantry, MCT, a month of playing real Marine so you can learn everything. I quickly learned that they just push people through because they give you written tests, and most of the written tests are, if you ever you've been in, I'm assuming, correct?
No, actually really? I haven't.
All right,
yeah.
Well, in the Marine Corps, you do written tests for when you're in boot camp and when you're at the MCT SOI. And
how many syllables do they allow per word? Do they keep them short for you guys?
Oh my god! They in boot camp they give you they always have you do what they call spit knowledge, which is just like you're just screaming off these little things to remember.
Yep.
And like they find it's like the most dumbed down versions of everything, and they're like
kill.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, like one of them, I remember off the top of my head, I'm thinking one of them, they scream like house to house, street to street. And you're supposed to be like, sir, house to house, street to street is Way City. And I'm like, I'm thinking about this now. And I'm like, isn't there a little bit more to that?
Right.
Or the favorite one, because it becomes its own saying, is the 6 troop leading steps, or BAMSIS, which I don't even care to remember right now.
Okay.
But it's like this whole planning process. And I'm like, they have us shouting this, but they don't really test to see if you actually comprehend what they're talking about.
Right.
And then you take the written tests, and it's the most basic cookie cutter answers. And I found this. I eventually found this out, like at the very end, that our guide only reason he was passing the knowledge test was because the person he was copying off the person next to him.
Whoa!
And I'm like,
what's a guide?
He's the guy who pretty much carries the flag. He's supposed to be like the head of the platoon. Oh,
gotcha. Okay. Okay. Wild.
Yeah, he's the guy who carries the flag, though.
Right. Okay. So they basically were trying to make it as close to an open book test as they could. Without having an actual open book, because the questions were like, "What is a battle where Marines fought house to house, street to street?" And I'm like,
I hope. I'm like, like that was one of the answers. Probably was Quezon, because they picked like the most obvious battles, like the big famous ones, like Quezon, Iwo Jima, Guadalcanal, Way City, and I'm like, which one of these is actually in a fucking city?
Right.
It was like that, dumbed down questions like that. And then MCT, the questions were a little bit more complicated, because then it's like you actually have to understand what the hell's going on. And people would be failing left and right. And you get like, I think 2 or 3 chances to pass the test. And it became fairly obvious that they were just pushing people through, because they're like, well, you're not going to be infantry. You're going to be a fucking cook. So yeah, here you go. Get the fuck out of here. Go to your MOS school and fail there.
Gotcha. So at what point were you separated by MOS? Was it after MCT?
Yes, after that,
Okay.
like you quote unquote graduate, and then they get you into civies because you have to take civilian aircraft. So you get into civilian attire. They put you on a bus and they drop your ass off at the airport with paperwork, and they kind of like you're literally on your own at that point. Like,
Oh wow. Okay.
I'm pretty sure that there have been instances between like I remember when I was doing the army thing. The army said that they take you straight from basic training to your job training. Like there's no like in the Marine Corps when you graduate boot camp you go home for 10 days. You
Oh
get 10.
okay.
Well, for us
Right.
because for us we were going home right before Christmas. They actually gave us all 7 days of recruiter's assistance as well. So I was home for almost 3 weeks.
Oh wow. Nice. Okay.
Granted, 7 of those days out, and then 7 of those days I was supposed to be working, but we went on a 96 for Christmas. So I was like, I think I did like 3 actual days of recruiter's assistance.
Right. Right.
And then they sent us down to Lejeune or Camp Geiger for MCT. Now the Army does the opposite. They send you straight from boot camp or basic training straight to your job training, and that's because according to them, they found that if you in that leave period, you have a bunch of people going AWOL or UA. They don't come back.
Sure.
So in this, I'm pretty sure with the Marine Corps when they send people from it depends on the job, because if you were any sort of embarkation or logistics guys, you would be going from one part of Lejeune to the next part immediately. Like you weren't even getting in civilian attire. You were just getting, you graduated, grab your shit, get on this bus, you're going down the street.
Right. Right.
Where for other people, like I was going to Missouri. Some people were going all the way out to California. Some people were going to Texas. It all depended. And then so, we went. It was like right in the middle of It was right at the end of January. So we, in the the military is as cheap as possible. So it was a flight from Raleigh to Minneapolis, Minnesota, down to St. Louis, Missouri. And in Minneapolis, we got trapped. So in Minneapolis, we got trapped in a snowstorm. So I had to stay at the USO in the airport overnight. And all I'm thinking to myself is, this isn't good, because from what I'm hearing, our MOS class picks up as soon as we get there. So if I'm late at all from this, I have to sit around and wait for another class to pick up. So we get down to St. Louis, and then they bus us down to Leonard Wood, Missouri, and you do all the same bullshitting in processing and whatnot. Luckily, my class picked up the very next, like a day or two later, so I got lucky. Where other people are sitting there, they're waiting months on end for classes. And when you're sitting around doing nothing is when you get in trouble. Like half the people who were sitting there waiting for classes ended up getting non-judicial punishments and losing rank and pay because they were going out in town and doing dumb shit.
Yep. And they don't have enough seniority yet to be like, well, we can understand your position. They're just straight up in trouble.
Yeah, well, and then you had guys who would like get hurt. They were doing whatever and then broke it. Like I think I walked into like the detachment offices, and there was some dude with a PFC with his leg in a cast. So he didn't even do anything. Like there were plenty of guys like that. There were people who were just like they're lance corporals. They've been in for 2 years and they're injured, so they can't go anywhere. Or they're on some sort of issue, they can't progress for whatever reason. Sure. And I remember one of my instructors were talking like, just give these guys basic MOSs so that they can at least out process and actually get out of the military. Because some of them were getting to that time where they're hitting the end of their contracts and they haven't even gone to MOS school yet because they're on med hold.
Whoa!
Yeah.
Wow, that's crazy. Oh, that got to be frustrating for them individually too. I mean, aside from the whole situation.
Yeah. So, wow. And then, in between all these processes too, you're also taking drug tests and shit. I remember when I was at MCT, they had a whole platoon of guys who were wearing the opposite color camis because it was winter, so we were all wearing green. These guys were wearing tan. And from what I found out, they were all the guys who essentially popped on drug tests when they got back from boot leave. And so they're all being, the Marine Corps is going to get their time out of them. Like if you're in training and you get some sort of reason that they have to discharge you, they're still going to get their time out of you.
Right.
Like the joke was the fastest way to get off Paris Island is to graduate boot camp. And that's absolutely true, because there were guys who got med held or they got other things, and they would just drag out that process to get out of, they're going to get their money out of you.
Yep. Nothing like a bureaucracy to keep things from moving.
Yeah. Like there was some guy who was like, I remember there was some guy who had some sort of medical condition that was like incompatible with military service. And he had been on Paris Island for like a year and a half before they finally out processed him.
Oh man.
And when I say year and a half, like, you're still quote unquote in training, so he couldn't go anywhere,
right?
Like, at all.
He didn't get leave or anything.
Nope. At least I don't think he did. There have been extreme circumstances where guys have gotten emergency leave while in the training process. Unfortunately, that meant that they got held back in training too. So like,
right.
If you had to go home for whatever reason on emergency leave, you get back. The class that you were with has already progressed. So you just get recycled. Yeah, you just get recycled. And that usually means that you're going back further than where you were before.
Sure.
Yeah.
Like you go back to like the last save place.
Something like that. What was this? Another specific example from boot camp. There was like 3 guys who like quit on the Marine Corps' final boot camp training is the Crucible.
Okay.
They make it out to be harder than it actually is. I actually had a blast on it. It was fun as hell.
Just camping and running around the woods.
Yeah. The only thing that sucked about it was the sleep. Well, actually, no, the sleeping was kind of fun because they would just put you in like a security perimeter. And they would find like the most brushed areas so that no one can see you. And the entire purpose of it was that you could pass out. I remember one time, like we woke up and I can hear my drill instructor. Like, do you have a drill instructor with you? But he's not acting like the drill instructor. He's just kind of acting like a regular Marine at that point. And I hear his ass. I hear his ass snoring. So sleeping. The one part about that was that we still had to pull fire watch, and I found out that I didn't know it was physically possible, but I could stand up, be drenched, soaking wet, and freezing cold, and still pass out.
Oh wow,
that was I'm
boy.
Like, oh, I think I fell asleep for 5 minutes there. Oh, I think I fell asleep for 5 minutes there. Oh, I think I fell asleep for 5 minutes there.
And you wake up still standing.
Yeah.
Oh, that's amazing.
But the only thing part of that sucked was the hike back, because it's like 9 miles and my pack was not put together right. Like it was like curved upwards to the right, so it's like leaning heavy to one side.
Oh, sure. So it's throwing you off.
Yeah, that shit sucked.
Oh man.
Yeah, and then one of my drill instructors started like it was like the last leg of it. So like when we start marching again, like we're not done until we get to the Iwo Jima Memorial, and they do the Eagle Globe and Anchor ceremony. You actually become quote unquote Marines, and he just screams in my face. He like he. I'm like, I could tell that he was just yelling at me one last time to get it out, and I'm just getting sprayed and sprayed and sprayed, and then I'm looking at him. I'm like, I'm looking at him, and I'm not saying anything obviously, but I'm like, feel better now that you finally got it out,
right? I'm glad I was here to give you this opportunity.
I got it from that drill instructor. I got it a couple times because there was when we did the Pugil sticks, I got knocked the fuck out. And and then we're marching, and I'm noticing my platoon's going one way, and I'm going a different way.
Oh,
so I'm like, at the end of the day, they report you have to report medical issues, and I thought I had a concussion, so I said something, and I gave him. I said the right thing because they're like, take him to the ER, and I'm like, oh shit. So this drill instructor had to drive me in a military government vehicle, which is just a regular car with government plates on it. Had to drive me to the emergency room, and then they said I needed a CAT scan. Mm-hmm. So they didn't have a CAT scan on base, so they had to drive me to the Naval Hospital in Beaufort. So I had to go in an ambulance to the Naval Hospital. It felt really weird this entire time because I'm out in the civilian world.
Right. What is this?
Yeah, CAT scan me, and then
people are polite to you. Yeah. They say thank you and please.
Yeah,
what's happening?
That was fucked up. And then we have to stop for gas. Do you want anything to eat? And I'm like, I'm afraid it's like they're asking me if I want food, and I'm like,
Right.
I do.
This is a trick. This is a trick.
Every time they gave me something, I thought it was a trick.
Right.
And well, like when I was in the hospital, they gave me a ginger ale to drink, and like my journal was like, "Don't think I won't fuck you up right in the hospital." I'm like, "I'm sure you will, sir."
He was with you.
Oh yeah, he was with me.
Oh.
He was with me at the first stop at the ER. He was not with me when they took me to the Naval Hospital.
Okay, gotcha.
Which reminds me, they decided to give me IV plugs, but not actually plug me with IVs. So they gave me like they put like the biggest gauge of needle. And I'm looking at this, and I'm like, that's not a fucking needle, that's a spike. And I thought I was going into shock as they're sticking me, because they did both arms for some reason.
Wow.
And these were these giant fucking spike needles, and I'm just like spazzing the fuck out.
Your drill instructor sent a note along.
Yeah.
He's like, hey,
and
treat this guy special.
Yeah, well then as I got out of that hospital bed to go and get in the ambulance to go to the naval hospital, I just look at the sheets, and they're just soaked in blood, and I'm just, what the fuck? Like eyes wide, and oh my god. But yeah, I get the CAT scan to find out it's just a massive ass sinusitis. And that's so when I got knocked the fuck out, it irritated that, and that's what just caused me to fucking get all sorts of fucked up.
Right.
So obviously he's fucking, but luckily I didn't drop out of training or anything. I just kept going. I was on light duty for a bit, and they put me on bed rest for a weekend, and that was it. I was still able to train. I didn't fall back or anything, but I'm better. I'm back. I'm cleared. And then we're getting ready to go to the rifle range. And what they have you do is they have you sew a button into your hat, so that they give you a little thing to hold your earplugs in. And I'm just checking that. I'm checking that to make sure it's secure. And the same drill instructor was like, "Oh, you want to fuck with your button? Get on the quarterdeck." And he just fucking smoked my ass the entire time. I'm walking over to, I'm moving over to it. I'm looking at him. I'm like, I know what this is for. Let's just get it over with. And then he screams at me right before the end of the Crucible, and I'm like, I know what this is for. You happy you got it out?
Right.
Yeah. So and then combat trade, MCT, which was fun. I actually enjoyed it, but again, whatever. And then MOS school, I got this like weird, it was like this weird thing because they gave us off time where we can go do whatever we want, and we can go out in town, and it had this weird college feel to it. And then of course you have you're finally intermingling with females more often, and it turns into, that turned into a mess because 2 people in my platoon got caught fucking.
Oh no.
Yeah. Yeah, and various other things. People had relationships. Women got caught. Apparently, 2 females got caught fucking a gunnery sergeant right before I got there.
Oh man!
And only reason they got caught is because they had a picture of one of them wearing nothing but his dress blue jacket.
Right, it's like, hang on, something's going on.
Yeah, and apparently they got, and you know what? I'm sure it happens all the time, and I'm 100% convinced that it's like a guy when you find out a guy is sleeping with a hot teacher. The only reason that people find out is because one of them said something to someone who was jealous and then narked their ass out.
Right. Sure. Yeah. So when you went through boot camp, it was separated. Is that still the case? Do you know?
I assume so. I know Army Basic has some sort of co-ed level.
Okay.
I don't think the Marine Corps has quite done that yet. Because they have their own, they don't send the females over to I don't even remember what it's called. Out in California, wherever the fuck their place is called now. I don't even remember. Yeah, they don't send them out there. They only have, there's like 20 males to every 1 female in the Marine Corps.
Right, exactly.
So they have 3 male battalions and then 1 female battalion at Parris Island. And so as far as I know, they keep them all separate. They have all female drill instructors, and I think there's a couple of, I remember we got told that there's like some logistical reasonings to that too. Because apparently the females, the women's diet is like heavily restricted compared to the males.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
Yeah,
Huh.
because we all go to the rifle range together. Like there's gonna be like they go. I think they go to the rifle range the same time that first battalion goes. And they said that when they're when they have females come into the chow hall, they have to swap out all the trays because they get different food.
Huh. Interesting.
How
Maybe
how
less
much?
calories or
Yeah,
something.
how
Huh.
much of that is accurate? I don't know. That's just something
Sure.
a drill instructors say a lot of things, but they don't actually tell you the truth.
Right.
If you ever get a female veteran, female Marine Corps veteran on here, that'd be a really interesting conversation to have.
Yeah. Yeah. The differences. Huh.
Yeah. Um,
Interesting.
but yeah, they that's what we got told anyways. But then we get the intermingling, and then all sorts of bullshit and drama ensues. Yeah. So the one interesting thing about CBRN training is that you actually have to go into a live nerve agent chamber.
Oh yeah. Right.
So
Right.
um, because
So is this training that everybody has to do, or you for your MOS?
for my MOS, I mean
Okay.
the regular gas chamber with CS gas and
Hmm.
this mass confidence training that everyone has to go through.
And then that's the one where they make you take your mask off for a few
Yeah,
seconds or something. Okay.
yeah,
Gotcha.
and then the live nerve agent one is specifically for the MOS, where
Gotcha.
they supposedly expose you to sarin and VX,
Mm.
which is
Supposedly. You think they
yeah.
don't?
Well, they have alarm monitors in there, and
Uh-huh.
but at the same time, the alarm systems that they were using at the time were already out of date. But as
Gotcha.
soon as they walked, they had it in like these weird, like they came in like looking like some like they looked like Walter White from Breaking Bad when they were walking in with all this shit.
Okay.
And as soon as they walked in the room, the alarms all went off. So either that was well planned choreography or it's legit. And from what I'm told, they have given they have knacked the antidote thing. I don't
Oh,
know how
okay.
to, yeah, the anti nerve agent shit, which they actually had to jab that into people in the chamber before. So
Oh, wow. Well, that'll make you wake up.
yeah. When you're exposed, you're doing what I used to call doing the funky chicken on the ground.
Okay.
So your body's awake. You might not be,
Gotcha.
but
Gotcha.
so they would jab you with the double needle system that they had at the time, and they would go through the whole process. And I think one of the guys in my class actually had to be cut out of his suit.
Oh, wow.
I don't think he ended up not being exposed. I think he just kind of had the heebie-jeebies of being in there because
Oh, sure.
claustrophobia in that suit's a real thing.
Yeah.
And
Oh,
then
I can
you throw
imagine.
in live nerve agent, and it just makes it worse. So I think he just kind of spazzed out on his own. They cut him out of the suit, and they draw blood on you before you go in.
Mm-hmm.
And then they compare that to after he was supposedly exposed. It drew more blood, and they didn't see any changes. So it was more of like a mental
Gotcha.
thing, fucked them up.
Sure. Sure.
But yeah,
Yeah, totally understandable. I mean,
Mhm.
we're talking, yeah, like you're saying, you're in a full suit, like
yeah,
completely enclosed, and then death outside.
yeah, and you're completely enclosed to a suit that you put on yourself.
Right. Right.
So if you fuck up, it's on you.
And not quick death. It's like it's agonizing death.
No,
So
it's
you're
quick.
just
It's 90
Oh, is
seconds. It's 90. It's
Oh,
supposedly
okay.
it's anywhere between it's like 30 to 90 seconds. But I mean, you're not enjoying that 30 to 90 seconds. You want
Right.
the whole thing is like the whole thing of how nerve agent works is that it cuts off. It's been 10 years now, so it's kind of hard to explain. But essentially, it disrupts the synapses signaling.
Okay.
So it causes
Right.
a shit ton of muscle contractions. So essentially, you're having like the worst muscle cramps that you've ever experienced, and it's not just one. It's not just your leg; it's every muscle in your body. And essentially, you contort yourself to the point where you can snap your own spine.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Cool.
So yeah, you're not enjoying the 90 seconds, but it's only 90 seconds.
Right.
But yeah, so we're in there. They bring this shit out. They splash some shit with it. They have like rubber rifles in there, and they put it on the rubber rifle so that you can do all your testing. You have the test kits, like detection equipment, all the other shit. You have the antidote kit that you jab a dummy with. So and those
while suited up.
Yeah, and those
wow,
needles
okay.
those needles are no joke. They had actual ones at the schoolhouse, and to prove a point, they took out a flak the old Desert Storm era flak jacket that are like super thick and dense, and they stabbed it, and the needle went shot right through it, no problem, and it sprayed all the atropine all over the place, just to prove a point. And I'm pretty sure that if you put your thumb on it and just hit, you activate, it's only 2 pounds of pressure to activate that auto injector.
Okay.
And that shit would just shoot right through your thumb.
I see. If you put your thumb on the wrong end.
Yeah,
right.
It shoots out with that much force.
So does it work? It works kind of like an EpiPen.
Yeah.
A little bit. Okay.
All right. Or
people are probably more familiar with that.
It's actually it's the same spot too. It's in the fatty part of the thigh.
Okay, gotcha.
It's
wow.
Going through MOS school, the first thing I thought after learning this is, well, Nicolas Cage was fucking wrong in The Rock. Because you've seen The Rock, right? Nicolas Cage, Alcatraz, Sean Connery.
I haven't actually. No.
Really?
The reference is lost on me, unfortunately.
All right. Well, in the movie,
but I'm sure not on the listener.
Yeah. In the movie, Ed Harris plays a Marine Force Recon general.
Okay.
And his whole thing is about getting benefits for his covert operations soldiers who they died for him, and they couldn't even get military burials, and their families got no benefits because of their operations. So gotcha. he decides to take over Alcatraz and hold everyone there hostage. And
gotcha.
as part of the threat, he has rockets filled with VX gas.
Okay.
And
super accurate.
Yeah. So, the only thing accurate about that shit is the whole thing of it being a nerve agent and contorting your body and breaking your own spine.
Right.
Everything else in the movie is total bullshit. like atropine had in the movie it's a giant fucking needle of atropine, and you have to go all fucking Pulp Fiction and jam it through into the heart.
Okay. So they really play it up.
Yeah,
right.
They play it up, and I'm like, they played a Pulp Fiction style, and I'm like, well, you're missing. You have the atropine, yeah, but you're missing another component to that, and you don't jab it into the fucking heart. But I mean,
someone watches that movie and then goes out and kills somebody by accident or something.
Yeah, probably. But yeah, you do all the detection shit, and then you go through and you go through decontamination, where essentially you're just taking off. Essentially, you're just in parts. You're taking off the suit to the point where you strip down bare ass and have to go take a shower.
Oh, okay, but you do it in there's different chambers, right?
Yeah,
you do a certain step and then move into another room.
You're going through a giant process where they have certain areas, and they literally give you everything for this. Like you strip down down completely, and they give you underwear, they give you socks, they give you pants, they give you a t-shirt, they give you legitimate Converse All-Star low tops to wear on your feet, so under the boots instead of actual boots.
Okay.
So they literally give you everything, and then you go through various processes where you take all that off to the point where you're wearing literally nothing but a t-shirt and the gas mask. And then you go through and you're all lined up, and you take the shirt and the mask off at the same time, throw it in a bucket, and then you go through a door, and there's showers going. You spin around in the shower, and then you go to another room, which is a more shower, and you actually take a legitimate shower.
Okay, sure. Yeah. It's a whole phased.
Yeah, and all that stuff, that because it's minimal exposure. They go through some process where they clean the fuck out of those suits, because they're only supposed to have a certain duration of how long they're good. But apparently they have a way of they can extend the duration for X amount of time. But everything's date checked, everything's inspected.
Sure.
And so they go through, if there's essentially they go through enough there because they know how volatile all this shit is, that if there is a fuck up, it's completely on the individual person who is getting all suited up.
Right. Sure. I see what you're saying. Yeah.
So, that ends. Unfortunately, I got some of the worst orders I thought I could have, because they give you options to go to infantry battalion. They give you can ask to go to certain places, and I asked to go to an infantry battalion on the West Coast. because I really wanted to go to Pendleton because I kind of I wanted to get as far as fuck away from my family as I could. But then I also didn't want to go to Japan either. So I was looking for that. I was looking for that happy. Like your options were East Coast, West Coast, overseas.
Right. Sure.
So I chose. I wanted to go to an infantry unit on the West Coast. And so, but however, I got my specific orders were to the 2nd Marine Division, Camp Lejeune, North Carolina, and I was fucking pissed. I was like, this is the last place I wanted to go.
Nice. Right.
Especially when I asked him, like, what exactly, what's going on at that level? And he's like, you're in a giant platoon and you just oversee everyone else. And I'm like, that sounds kind of boring. And it was boring. I got there and essentially I come to find out that my staff NCOIC literally just came from the schoolhouse. The one right behind him literally just came from the schoolhouse 6 months before him. So all the instructor, it's a small MOS already, and all the instructors and everyone already knows each other. But It was like shit. It's like everyone everything's broken down before I even get there. But essentially, I had a chief warrant officer 4. He was there's no commissioned officers in the MOS. It's either enlisted or chief or warrant officer. There's no commission. There's like no lieutenants or anything like that. So a chief warrant officer 4, who was like the second highest person in the MOS period.
Right.
Had a master sergeant, a gunnery sergeant, I think 2 staff sergeants, 2 sergeants, 5 corporals, and then it was like 11 lance corporals. So this was a huge fucking platoon.
Right.
If you go to anywhere below that, it's like 3 people, including the warrant officer. So it's like a warrant officer, a corporal, and a lower enlisted.
Right.
So essentially, what the division level, I think, pretty much anything at the division level in the Marine Corps, it's pretty much a bunch of people who are either in holding to go to lower level units because they have nowhere else to put them. It's people who are getting out, so they pull them there so they can get new people into the lower unit, or people who are getting ready, or people who, in general, people who fucked up in some way. The headquarters units were full of like staff non-commissioned officers who were either unpromotable or they fucked up, and instead of punishing them, they just stuck them in an office until their contract expires.
Right. Yeah. Sometimes that's just easier, simpler, maybe.
So there wasn't a whole lot of. Not to say my platoon was like this, because I happened to get lucky and had a really good platoon sergeant. And I had really good, for the most part, really good staff NCOs. So my unit was lucky because it really was just that holding. It really was just that holding place for people waiting for proper orders.
Gotcha. Sure.
But other sections were totally, and then there were some sections where it's just like, this is where those people go. Like we shared our office with public affairs, and that's just where the public affairs people go. Like they get dispatched to units as needed. Period. And like they're never permanently assigned to a battalion. They just happen to go there. Or no, it wasn't public affairs. It was combat camera. Or was no.
Oh,
no,
okay.
It was public affairs, and then we had there were a couple people from combat camera who were popping in and out. And those were those people all they all just naturally go to like the division or group level places, and then they get dispatched to units accordingly per an assignment.
Oh, sure. It's not like a platoon level position. It's higher up, and then that's just as needed.
That's just where you go and you're attached as needed.
Gotcha. Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah. Where unlike us, is like you either if you're a lower enlisted and you get sent there, it's literally because they don't have anywhere else to stick you. And my MOS was getting kind of bloated. Like the class before me, and the class after me were like the 3 biggest classes in the history of the job.
Okay.
So it was just literally they had nowhere else to send us, and that got initially it was very defeating. Like I'm just like I'm coming into work and I don't have anything to do. Like we get sent on working parties just because they got nothing for us to do, or they would find work for us to do. Like I got stuck one day doing like fucking just cataloging the publications and all the manuals and like, you know, properly ordering them. And it's like, we don't ever fucking use these. They just sit in the closet, but it's like, it's work that it's busy work. So essentially I did busy work for like a year and a half. And then all of us started getting, and then the Marine Corps and its Infinite Wisdom decided that they were going to deploy a division level element as a command and control structure for Afghanistan. And we didn't know, we knew it was coming down, but we didn't know exactly how it was going to work. But then we noticed like all the people who were coming in after me were getting sent down to the battalions, and all of us were being held up. And little did I know, or what we all eventually figured out, was that they were holding us at higher to put us on the division level deployment to work in the Combat Operations Center. So essentially what they were doing was that they were holding back the quote unquote smarter of us to work in that. And then they sent all the underlings and all the other people down further. And we were getting pissed because those spots were meant for us. And then they were going to people who've been around for less time because they wanted to put us on this higher level deployment.
Gotcha.
And that was even more interesting because I learned, because we were put in, you know, the breakdown, like the 2 shop is intel, 4 is logistics, and all the other
rough. Yeah, I've heard it referred to. Yeah,
and the 3 shop is the training and operations, and because our job is to train, that's where we got put.
Gotcha.
And I learned very quickly that at the division level G3 for this deployment, it was like the only thing I can compare it to would be like the cold case unit at a police department, or at least the movie and TV show versions of cold case units, where like they just like, this guy fucked up, but he's, you know, it's a police union and he has this amount of time in, so we're going to let him finish out his time at a desk job where all he does is make phone calls.
Right.
That's how that felt, because you meet all these different people from all these different units, and then you hear some of their stories, and I'm like, you fucked up, but because you're an officer, they're not going to punish. Their idea of punishing you is sending you here.
Right.
And it was more like, I think we were like the only lower enlisted guys who were in this section. And they gave us a couple of infantry guys from other units, and you hear their stories, and like, oh, you fucked up too.
Wait, why am I here? You start questioning here.
Yeah, like, and everyone has their stories, and you know, and I'm not saying that any of these people were bad people. Most of them were good. There were a couple of shitheads. I ain't gonna lie, but that's everywhere. You're always gonna have a couple of shitheads.
Sure, and some of those guys, it could have just been a one-time thing.
Yeah,
you know, it's not like that was their whole career. Just like they did something, you know.
Oh yeah, and
it came like, wow, we need to.
It came for the officers. It definitely proved to be a one-time thing, because we were deployed for a year. For like most Marine Corps deployments are 6 months, but for the division level, they deployed us for a year.
Oh, okay.
And I was literally my job was to just sit in the COC and, you know, read the chat messages, because the Marine Corps has some sort of like chat room messaging system to send up, you know, big chunks of information.
Sure. Okay.
And, you know, and they send it all in like the coded radium. They send it all in their coded messages. And so my job was essentially to convert that into something that was a little bit more easier to read for higher ups.
Gotcha. Okay.
Like take these 9 lines of radio messages that got turned into you know, take this essentially like a
transcript or something.
Yeah, take this. Thank you. Take this transcript of all these different lines of messages and turn it into an actual readable report.
Right.
And
I take out all the extraneous nonsense and just condense it to the important information.
Yeah, and essentially, I turned my deployment in Afghanistan. I'm assuming you've seen Black Hawk Down.
Yeah.
This will be the only thing that I would say the accurate thing from a movie. I was essentially Grimes from Black Hawk Down.
It's been a while. Is he the one who was stuck back at the base?
Yeah, he was the one who was like, I have a rare and important skill that precludes me from going on missions. And he's like, typing? You're like, can you
Oh,
type?
oh yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
Well, that was
Ewan McGregor.
yeah, that's okay. Okay.
Unfortunately, I didn't get to go on a mission where I got shot at by every RPG in the country, but
Right.
well, maybe that was a good thing. But yeah,
You had his experience without that day.
yeah, I had I knew how to type, and then about halfway through the deployment, I got told that I was the only one allowed to make coffee in the morning.
Oh wow.
Because
okay,
I was
so
apparently
double important.
Yeah, apparently. Oh my god, important. My master sergeant came with us, and he had a coffee mug, and he never cleaned it. This coffee mug was never. I think he washed it out with water, but that was it. Because if you looked inside, it was like a white mug, and on the inside, it was deep dark brown.
Right.
So we probably had about 12 years of coffee stains in that cup.
Wow.
And yeah, I got told I was the only one allowed to make coffee because apparently I was the only one who didn't fuck it up.
Right.
So it was like,
was it like a pot, like just a standard pot? You put the grounds in, put the water in.
No, it was probably like a 2-foot tall percolator.
How do you mess that up? I'm intrigued now.
Well,
that's the most important question so far.
Well, here was my process: is I would literally just take the pot out, I would dump out the old coffee, I would take the percolator basket, I would just dump the grounds into the garbage. I used to take water and clean out the stuck grounds, and then I said, and I was like, Master Sergeant's cup has 15 years of coffee stains in it. I don't think he's gonna care. So I stopped doing that, and I just would like,
you just plop the grounds out.
Yeah. And I
then
figured
put the basket back in.
Yeah, I figured out how many water bottles I needed to pour in there, and then I figured out how much coffee needed to go, and that's all I did.
It's like an aged whiskey barrel or whatever, or a wine barrel.
I used to clean it up, but then I'm like, I'm going to stop bothering because I know I'm just seasoning the next batch.
Yeah, it adds the flavor.
And I think one day there was a problem because one of the other guys used apparently someone, because all the coffee that we had was sent over by wives and girlfriends and parents and shit, or people were able to get coffee sent over to us, and someone sent instant coffee. So I think someone used instant coffee in the coffee pot, and so from that point on, I was the only one allowed to make coffee. And then, guys,
Gotcha.
My buddy's wife, she would send us caribou coffee. So whenever the caribou coffee came in, I would use the caribou coffee. And like in the small bag, I had a system where if like I got the regular, if I didn't get a bucket, I got a bag, I knew just to use the entire bag. So, as unfulfilling as it was something.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
But I also, at this point, it was when I decided I wanted to get the fuck out because, well, one, I kind of, there's always that part of you, like I don't want another year-long deployment because I was losing my shit the entire time. Sure. I didn't want to just sit behind a desk my entire career. Mm-hmm. And I knew because with the rank, I finally hit NCO while we were over there, and I knew for a fact that I'm like, the only way that I was going to be able to continue was to go to these year-long deployment units where I would just have a desk job, or I had to lat move somewhere else, and I didn't want to do that.
Sure, because I was a re-enlist. You were saying.
Well, yeah, naturally. But I'm like, yeah, I'm done. I think I determined halfway through the deployment, I'm done. I wanted out. So I started figuring out my next move from there. As I said, I think the line goes, they call it dropping your pack, where you just, you just stop giving a shit. You're just, you're here to collect the check and do the immediate of what you're told.
You're planted.
It's, I think nowadays they call it quiet quitting in the civilian world, where you just do the bare minimum, and you're not, you don't go above and beyond. I'm like, I still did my job, but I wasn't gonna, I'm not gonna do anything to get promoted. I'm not gonna do anything to get anything special. I'm gonna live out the rest of my contract, take my ball, and go home.
Right. Don't get in trouble.
Yeah.
Do what I need to do.
They always getting in trouble is gonna happen. Like they call it, they have the good conduct medal. They also call it the I didn't get caught ribbon.
Right.
And
is that the same as the good cookie?
Yeah. Yeah, good cookie. We called it the I didn't get caught ribbon.
Right.
Because we all did shit that we should have gotten in trouble for. I called it the I did get in trouble, but Gunny decided that he'd rather have me buff the floors instead of filing paperwork. Because that is what happened. I did get in trouble a couple times, and the company gunnery sergeant was like, "All right, here's what we could do. I could file a charge sheet for dereliction of duty and disobeying a direct order, or you can buff the floors in the common area of the barracks for a week." And I'm like, "I'll buff floors."
Right.
And then my own gunny was like, "Hey, you're going to go do an armory count over. You're going to go over to the armory and do an armory count." And I'm like, "All right." He's like, and you know exactly why you're going. And I'm like, "Yeah, I know." Like I took it like I took it like a man because I knew. I'm like, it's either this or it's I lose I lose rank that I just got, and I lose pay, and I lose a lot of other shit.
Right. I'll take a little abuse.
Yeah, I'll take it. Well, I never minded doing the armory counts because when I was a new join or a boot or whatever the hell you want to call it, I got you get stuck on all the bullshit working parties anyways, and so I had to go do an armory count, and it was me and it was someone else, a company. It was me and my roommate because we came from the schoolhouse together, company commander, and the company first sergeant, and. I don't know what it was, but we burned through it so fast that we saved him he was supposed to be doing the armory count for like 3 days, and we got it done in like a day and a half.
Oh wow!
And
nice.
I became the company commander's best friend. I didn't have to worry about shit from him, and what field day is, right? You've had that. So field day would come in. He would come into my room and he's like, "What's up?" I'm like, "Hey, sir." And he's like, "So, I think he's like, "Where's the beer? I'm moving in." And I'm like, "Cool." It would just be things like that. And then he'd come in the morning. Like he would come in, he would look at the room, and he'd be like, "Later." I came to that point where I didn't have to worry about shit. And our office also had me right next to the company office, so I'd be in there all the time because of random bullshit. And then, what happened was our printer didn't stopped working, and no one could figure out what the hell was wrong with it. So instead of just like getting it fixed, they would my staff sergeant, she would print off everything in the company office, and I'd have to go and get it for her. And it came to the point where I was just in there every 5 minutes. So I just, instead of doing the whole thing of where you wait at the reception desk and then you get what you need done, I would just walk around and I would just get my shit because I knew what was going on. And I walk in one day and first sergeant's there. They're like, "Hey, what's up?" Like, "Hey, first sergeant," and come to gun like, "Hey, Gunny, what's up?" I think he said to me like, "Hey, where's my beer?" And I'm like, "Well, Gunny, I'm not old enough to have beer, but if I was, I'd have beer for you." Right. And his response was, "That's a good answer, but that's bullshit." He's like, I was a lance criminal too. I know what's up. I'm like, I know, Gunny. I don't know. But one day we had this like staff sergeant, and another staff sergeant who couldn't pick up, so he was just there to wait out the rest of his contract. And I walk in, he's like, "What the hell are you doing?" Company guns is like, "Leave him alone, staff sergeant. He knows what he's doing." He's like, "What's up?" And I'm like, Hey, Gunny. So, and then it came to the point where we got the printer fixed, and they came to me like, "Hey, we need this printer fixed." And all I literally did was I called the number on the printer to get like the contractors out to fix it.
Right.
And so like 2 days later, the printer was fixed. And then
nice.
My chief officer goes to me, he's like, so you're the one who finally got the printer fixed. And I'm like, I made a phone call, sir.
Right.
And then it came to the point.
I will take all the praise.
Yeah, well, yeah, but here was the annoying part, because I made one phone call that anyone could have made. It came to the point now whenever computers were down, I was the one who came to I'm like, why am I the one responsible for this? I just made a fucking phone call.
Right. No, you are the expert.
Yeah, I'm like, God damn it. I'm like, yeah, you're the NMCI expert. I'm like, I'm the expert at making a phone call. Yeah. Like my staff sergeant was like, "I can't get my email on this computer. Call them up and fix this." And I was one day I spent like 3 hours on the phone. Like they took over the computer, they did all the things that they needed to do, and it still wouldn't work. And I'm just like, it was just murder. So yeah, like Afghanistan happened. It was, for the most part, it was uneventful. I was Grimes, coffee and typing. Like I was no, I was literally put in that position because I was the only one who actually knew how to type on a keyboard.
Oh wow! Oh, awesome!
Like yeah, we're going to put you here because you're the one who you seem like you have some level of smarts. I'm like,
right.
And all I'm thinking is because I took the thing was I could type because I took a keyboarding class in high school as an elective, where they actually teach you how to type like 100 words a minute and all the actual things of the proper technique
the
of
whole
typing on a
home
keyboard
row and everything. Yeah.
And I'm like, and I'm thinking to myself, man, that fucking high school, that elective from fucking I think I took it. There were two separate classes. I took regular and then there was advanced. And I took both of them my freshman year of high school, and I'm like, those fucking electives are coming back to haunt me.
Why did I do that?
Yeah. I took them because they were bird classes, and then yeah, go figure. So that happens. I get, we come back and just more. I'm becoming fully aware of the like it's not like I wasn't already aware of the bullshit, but now it's like it's really because we left Afghanistan in early 2012, and that was when they were trying to transition everything so that we could actually leave.
Mm-hmm.
And, as you can tell, the 8 years of transitioning didn't work out too well.
Yes.
So they were we're rotating into what they call peacetime Marine Corps. And our division commander was doing a change of ceremony. He was leaving. I was already aware of how much of a dog and pony show things were in the Marine Corps. Like I always said, there's 3 Marine Corps. There's what the Marine Corps should be, what the Marine Corps pretends to be, and what the Marine Corps actually is. Yeah, the Marine Corps is supposed to be that it's supposed to be that somewhat elite fighting force, specialized, amphibious warfare fighting force, steeped in tradition and honor and courage and commitment. The Marine Corps acts like it's nothing but a giant dick measuring. It's not. Well, no. I'm ahead of myself. It's nothing but a giant parade and dog and pony show of all this gallantry and all this ceremony and all this over the topness of how badass we are. And then the Marine Corps is actually a giant dick measuring contest.
Right. Wow.
It's a dick measuring contest and a mix, and being able to, it's not about how good you actually are. It's about how good you can make your paperwork look. Which isn't
sure. Yeah.
Which is my favorite example of that is there was they did a board to see if they can meritoriously promote corporals. And this one guy was, luckily he wasn't in my section. I think he was actually from Motor T. He really wasn't all that good from what I can tell. He wasn't really all that good at leadership. He kind of just did whatever the fuck he wanted. But he was able to run a 300. He was able to run a high level PFT. He looked good. He was able to run a high level PFT. He looked good in uniform, and he had all of his certifications and whatnot, so he got a meritorious promotion. And I'm like, yeah, there you go. That's how it works. There's always people in leadership positions who have no business being in there.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm curious. One, obviously, like a combat arms MOS, there's a big difference between CONUS posting and deployment. For your MOS, was there a significant difference?
Oh, it was totally different world.
Okay, because, even though you're not actually out in the field or whatever, there's different environment.
Because in a CBRN MOS, when there's no CBRN threat, they kind of just stick you wherever they need you.
Sure. Okay.
And it depended from unit to unit too. We had some guys who came from one of the infantry battalions. I believe he came from 2nd Battalion, 9th Marines. And they took their CBRN guys and they put them on the site exploitation teams.
Okay.
Other units, they had their guy, he was driving a Humvee in Afghanistan. It all depends on what that individual unit needs.
Okay.
Because they don't need they don't need you for CBRN purposes.
Right. So pretty much nobody did their actual MOS. They filled in somewhere else.
Yeah, none of us did our actual MOS when we were in Afghanistan. We were all clerks. We were all keyboarders. We were all PowerPoint rangers.
Right.
And
I know a guy. I know a guy who was an MLRS driver, and years ago, I'm sure, and when he got deployed to Iraq, very quickly he just became a transport driver.
Yeah.
I think they even shipped their rockets back home. So they're just like, we're literally not using these at all.
Yeah. Yeah, or I remember a couple of our guys, because again they pulled everyone from all different units. One of the guys was from Amtrak's, and they had him be like a logistics monitor. I forgot the actual job title, but his job was like to monitor all the logistics convoys that were going in and out of the area. Like they gave him a Blue Force tracker and all sorts of
wow,
doodads.
Sure.
And yeah, and he was an Amtrak.
Cool job, but not at all related to what he's supposed to be.
He was an Amtracker, and then when he deployed to Afghanistan before, because he was in Afghanistan the year before, and when he was there, the one thing, like his job was to drive an Amtrak, and they went over there without the Amtraks.
Right.
You know, they put him on MRAPs, and they put him on like fucking perimeter security.
Right. Wow.
So that's not, I think the only people who go to there's some, for the most part I would say most people that do the actual job that they're trained to do. But then there's those it's when you get into like the super specialized, very specific niche positions that they end up sticking you other places.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like unless this very ultra specific thing happens, we don't need you, but we need an ass in a seat that we don't have. So you're going to go be that ass in the seat.
Right. Right. Which to a certain extent that there is value in just the flexibility of that.
Well,
like team effort aspect and everything.
Yeah. Well, we also, when I was in, they also added what they called the consequence management program, which was actually just more like, the civilian side of hazmat.
Oh, okay.
Like the big bubble, like the big bubble suits and the air tanks and all that stuff. They started incorporating that into the MOS. Apparently, there was a big fight in the higher levels of the MOS, like between like people who saw that this was the future of keeping the MOS relevant, and people seeing that this has no purpose here.
Sure.
Apparently, there was some back and forth about that. But it was in. And we did it. We had a whole set of suits and other detection equipment, and we actually, apparently, I never saw any of it, but according to my platoon sergeant at the time, we had it there with us in the event that because you have heroin production going on and all sorts of other crazy drug shit.
Gotcha.
I never got confirmation, but I do believe that there were DEA special operation type teams in Afghanistan doing secret squirrel shit because of it.
Oh, interesting. Okay, sure.
Yeah. Well, I totally spaced the acronym at the time, but we would get the traffic across the net for ODAs, which I totally spaced what ODA meant at the time. So we got told other departmental agency. ODA stands for Operational Detachment Alpha.
Right. Okay. Yeah.
So it was essentially we were getting messages that we weren't supposed to get from Green Berets.
Oh, that's hilarious.
It was never anything major, and we knew special operations were in the area anyways because we would have to deconflict airspace for them. Because we had I'm not going to name specific people, but we did have various special operations liaisons in the area to tell us what they were, give us a general idea of what they were doing. And those guys are no joke. I don't want to get incredibly specific, but I am fairly convinced that a Call of Duty character is based off of the guy that we had.
Oh, okay. That'd be awesome.
I know that's not the case, but we believe that it was the case because they had the same name and similar personalities.
Oh,
we'll just put it this way: those guys were legitimate ninjas.
Oh yeah.
I shit you not, because we would get to see drone feed of them, and we'd be looking. We would just see a building, and then we look away for to answer someone's question. We look back, and the next thing we know, we see 30 guys like walking out of it.
Right. Yeah. Very tip of the spear stuff.
Yeah.
Wow.
But yeah, like we brought that in the event that we had to go and do stuff, but we never did. I'm sure we could have, but we never did. And I'm not even 100% accurate in the fact that we actually brought it over there with us. It wouldn't shock me at all that we didn't have any of it.
Sure.
Yeah, like we had people in all sorts of positions. I think we had like an infantry gunnery sergeant doing data system type stuff. Because everything works off of like shared websites and things like that.
Right.
Like, secret squirrel internet type things, we all worked off the internet. Wait a minute. Why am I being quiet about this? It's all public things. So, because Bradley Manning happened while we were over there.
Sure.
And so we had some discussions about that. What he did was he copied data off of the SIPRnet and then uploaded it all to WikiLeaks.
Oh, yeah. Okay, sure.
Which I guess that meant that what they said, what the data guy said to us was complete bullshit, because we were told that you plug anything into a SIPR link computer that they know about it. So I was under the impression that also meant CDs.
Sure.
Because what he did was he popped in a CD labeled Lady Gaga, downloaded a bunch of files, and gave it all to WikiLeaks. At least that's what I'm told is what happened.
Sure. Yeah.
I mean, his motive. I'm not even 100% accurate on his actual motivations, because I've heard 4 different versions of it from the person himself. And you also notice that I'm saying Bradley Manning, not Chelsea.
Oh, right. Yeah. Right.
Well, I'm like, because at the same time too, because Bradley's the one who did it. Not if you want to be weird about it, Bradley's the guy who did it. Bradley's on the charge sheet, not Chelsea.
Oh, okay. All right. I wasn't aware of the time frame there.
I'm not even. Yeah, it's weird and wishy washy. But when he got charged, like, he knew his ass was going to be fried. Like, if he took it to trial, he was going to lose. So I remember there were a bunch of excuses, like, what he gave them wasn't really all that damaging. He did it because he was trying to get out of the military because he's gay and they wouldn't let him out anymore. This was also at the trend that don't ask, don't tell. Nothing was made official at this point, but from what I got told before we even deployed was that the only people who were getting out on don't ask, don't tell at this point were the ones who wanted out.
Oh, sure. Okay, it was kind of, it was in the change from
it was in that
one
weird
policy to the other.
Yeah, it was in that weird transition area where, like, we'll get you if you, we're not going to kick you out, but if you want out, we'll kick you out. And it was in that weird period of where, like, we don't care. It's not that we don't care anymore, but we're being told that we don't care anymore.
Yes,
because the military still very much cared.
Right,
but they weren't allowed. The thing was, they weren't allowed to care. No, I remember because there was one guy in my barracks who apparently was gay and apparently got drunk and tried pulling some shit on some guy. And then they were, walking around the barracks looking for him. Essentially I don't know exactly what they were going to do, but it wasn't going to end well. And they end up, and because my roommate at the time was in the same section as they were in the band. And this guy was, my roommate was in the band. So I get my door knocked on at like fucking 3:00 in the morning. I'm passed out. And I'm like, do you really? These guys are like, where the fuck is he? And I'm like, I don't fucking know. Like, and they're like trying to push in my door. And I'm like, no, get the fuck out. That turned into a whole fiasco. Platoon sergeants get called and shit. My platoon sergeant, for various reasons, because my platoon sergeant ended up getting called in because of other things. And he's like asking me, because as a chain smoker, I was always at the smoke pit, so I always knew what was going on, because that's where all the word got, all the rumors and the scuttlebutt got passed. Right. Everyone dubbed me the head of the Lance Corporal Underground, because I always happen to hear everything. Right. And so the next day, so he's getting ready to leave, and my platoon sergeant's like, "Oh, Monday, tell me what the fuck's going on here, because I'm curious now." Yeah, all sorts of dumb shit. Dumb shit galore. Change of command ceremonies I got dragged into. This some random gunny who I didn't know was retiring after 21 years of service, and I literally had to stand in a formation and do a salute.
Okay. Huh. So, well, who knows?
Yeah. I mean, whatever. Shit happens, and we'll just do it again some other time. Yeah. Again.
Yeah. I'm I'm pretty confident that it recorded. So yeah, for the listener, as per the usual, we had audio connection issues, and now we're back. And I honestly forgot where we were. So
I was pissing and moaning about changing command ceremonies.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
No, we did a
Super
division
cool.
one. We did a division one. So the entire 2nd Marine Division. So we're talking about, God damn. Give me a second here. Like 16 separate battalions being represented.
Oh wow, wow.
If not more. Not the entire division was not there, obviously, because you had units deployed still, and you had other people who were doing more important things.
Okay.
I highly doubt that. It was still called Special Operations Battalion at the time, but now that they've regained the designation of Raider, so I'll just use the current one. I'm pretty sure 2nd Raider Battalion did not have anyone there.
Okay.
Because 2nd Raider, if they did, they were all like the office people, all the clerks and all the support people who they can get rid of for an hour.
Right.
But
right.
They had to, so we were doing the division commander wanted us to do drill, so we're doing drill with M16s on the parade field of Camp Lejeune. The entire and not only are we doing this, first of all, we're doing it with M16A4s with the drop-in railed handguards.
Oh yes,
without rail covers, so people were getting like cuts on their hands from all the jagged rail sections.
Right.
And no one wants to go hard at this because they don't want to fuck their shit up on a fucking handguard doing drill.
Right.
However, we had a couple of former drill instructors in our unit naturally, and they're like, "Well, why don't I hear these sticks popping?" And we're like, "Because these are fucking metal handguards that don't rattle like the plastic ones. So there's no heat shields in any of them because they're all beat the fuck out."
Right.
And then she's like, I just hear all these stupid conversations and all these stupid complaints about how we're not being loud and authoritative with them, and like, because we have no desire to.
Right.
Like, we're not here to, like, all of us have been like, we're not here for this anymore. We don't fucking care.
Right.
And I'm trying to think, was this? I think there were 2 separate ones, and I think this instance was before. Was the first change of command. I don't even remember anymore because I remember 2 separate things went on in terms of a commanding general change of command. This was one of them. And, it was hilarious because there's only one person calling out the drill commands. So you have battalions that are like 200 yards away who can't hear a fucking thing. So you have like this wave effect of people changing their doing drill movements.
Right.
Like the people who can actually hear, they're doing it first, and then you have like everyone else just following lead because they can't hear the commands because there's only one person calling the commands.
Right. Right.
And so we do that, and it was like 100 degrees out or something. Everyone was just dying. Like you had people falling out left and right from everywhere because they just couldn't do it. And then you had people who were just like, "I'm not doing this shit. I'm going to pretend to fall out."
Wow.
And then there was another one. This one was hilarious, actually. The commanding general wanted to do a boots and utes moto run. So it was, you know what I mean by boots and utes, right? It's like, cami pants, boots, under the skivvy shirt, no blouse.
Okay. Sure.
Which is from I kept on hearing in the Marine Corps order was no longer authorized as a PT option. But I'm going to go ahead and immediately assume that, well, one, commanding general's going to do what the fuck they want. And just like the haircut order is to coincide with you're supposed to get a haircut to go with every pay period. That's what the actual order says. However, there's always the fine print of at commander's discretion.
Right.
So that turned into you're going to have a haircut every week.
Right.
Not that it's that big of a deal. I was paying $6 at the time. It was more of what happened. So it happened again.
It started to go again, but now you're back.
Oh, okay.
That's weird.
All right.
Huh.
Well,
we'll leave it in, and the listener can agonize.
Yeah, fuck them. No, what happened? Haircut was $6 at the time. So the only real pain in the ass was that you had to get to the you had to get up early on a Saturday or a Sunday so that you can get to the PX in time before you meet the rush, and then you're in there for 4 hours. Oh, again, more audio describe. Wait, I just lost you.
Hello? Check.
Oh, there we go. Yeah, I got you now.
Okay, great.
All right. Jesus H.
All right, we're back again.
Again,
We're setting records.
Yeah, it's probably my shit. So that's
who
on
knows?
me.
Let's share the blame.
Yeah.
One thing, real quick. One thing I like to ask everybody is if a kid was to come to you and say, "Hey, I'm thinking about joining the military," or "I'm planning on joining the military. Do you have any advice for me?" What would you say?
One, I would say don't, because it's not what you think it is. It's not, honor, courage. The Marine Corps always hails honor, courage, and commitment. But I found out really fucking quick that you will never find anyone who has all three. I found many people who had no honor, many people who had no courage, and obviously there's no commitment, seeing how so many of them get out after 4 years.
Right.
So that's one. It's the commercials really don't do the justice, because they only show you the good parts and the good, and you will come to learn very quickly that those good parts that you're seeing are not all that. They get very, very shitty really quick. Like
sure.
the Marine Corps ads love doing the whole silent drill platoon thing, but they do not tell you that in order to get in the silent drill platoon, you have to be an infantry Marine and you have to be between 6 foot and 6'1.5".
Oh, wow.
Beyond being very, very good at drill.
Right.
Like they pull your ass. If you notice, they're all like lower ranked people. They pull your ass out of boot camp to do that.
Oh, interesting.
Well, they determine that you're good enough in boot camp, for obvious reasons.
Sure. Yeah. That makes sense.
All the cool shit requires some level of bullshit in order to get into. So it's, and there's many, and don't even bother for the free college, because I think they determined like the percentage, like only like 1/3 of people who get out actually take advantage of the GI Bill.
Oh, sure.
I think it's even an even smaller percentage.
Kind of like the rebate coupons.
Yeah.
When you buy something there's a rebate, they run the numbers, and a large percentage of people don't utilize the rebate. They just buy it thinking they're going to save money and then don't follow up. Huh? Yeah. I hadn't realized that. That makes sense, though.
But if you're dead set on it, like the thing is, like there's so many different mindset changes. Like as I said, when I went in, I was like not really desiring to have like a combat MOS. And then like halfway through boot camp, I'm like, fuck, why don't I have a combat MOS?
Right.
And having a veteran status now, like when you get out, like you say, like, you're a veteran, you think that's going to help you. It doesn't help you for shit. No one cares. Because you're a dime. Now you're a dime a dozen. Or because, the media portrays it as, you're fucked up in the head. People don't want to take on that potential liability.
Oh, right. Right. No, that makes sense.
Yeah.
There's a risk.
And I think most people, most people do get out in some way. And I'm not even going to say it's PTSD. I think the Sebastian Younger, the guy who did the Restrepo documentaries.
Okay.
I remember I was reading an interview with him, and he's like, I don't think most of these people actually have PTSD. I feel like it's more of like a separation issue where, like, you come to this realization that, like, after being in combat, like you're never gonna have this, like, you're never gonna have this again. Like, you're never gonna have this level of camaraderie with people ever again. You're never gonna have this level of adrenaline again. You're never gonna have this like feeling of fulfillment ever again. You're never gonna have this feeling of purpose ever again.
Sure.
And it's just it's more of it's an issue with transitioning into that whole thing of being just an ordinary person again.
Right.
There's a lot of mystification, and people always try to demystify things, and then the military being the military, and I think it has more to do with the culture of who it is than it actually has to do with the institution. Ends up flipping it on its head. Like, Apocalypse Now was meant to be this horrible anti-war movie, and everyone's favorite scene is the helicopter raid where they're playing Flight of the Valkyries,
right?
Or Full Metal Jacket.
I love the smell of napalm in the morning.
I love the smell now. Yeah,
right.
Or Full Metal Jacket.
That wasn't the message, dadgummit.
Full Metal Jacket's supposed to tell you how horrifying all this shit is, and everyone loves, and even people who are in boot camp, they celebrate Private Pyle shooting Arlie Ermy.
Right.
Because they all felt that same emotion. Like all these movies that are supposed to be were supposed to be anti-war movies end up getting mystified and get turned into the lore of Marine Corps culture.
Sure.
Like
yeah.
we have a good way of flipping the script. Like, a personal example. I remember when I was the last day of MCT, I got a portable DVD player and I had a copy of Starship Troopers, and my entire platoon was literally huddled around this little 7-inch LCD screen watching Starship Troopers.
Right.
And the thing is, that movie was meant to, that whole movie. Not the people always. I've seen it now. People are doing a whole lot of conflating between the messaging of the book and the messaging of the movie, which are two totally different things.
Okay.
And the movie is totally meant to be a giant criticism of military culture. And it's supposed to be because the director was actually, he lived in occupied Holland during World War II, and he saw a lot of things that were going on with the American military that were analogous to things he saw within the Wehrmacht.
Sure.
There's a lot of Wehrmacht, type stylings done with the soldiers in Starship Troopers, and his whole messaging was kind of like war makes fascists out of all of us, and the Marine Corps and the military in general. I remember when I was in community college and taking a politics class, I'm like, if you want to look at a modern interpretation of fascist governance, just look at the military.
Oh, okay, sure. Just in how it operates and functions.
Yeah, and you look at the youth. Granted, like so little. I mean, we all see right now, not a whole lot of people want to join the military, and good on them. The Marine Corps is having horrific recruiting capabilities right now, and I ain't gonna say I'm mad about that, because I'm not.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not gonna say that the military hurt me, but I do feel like I do know that if I didn't join the military, that my life would be on a far different path than where I am now. And now, I'm not the type to say if I could go back in time, would I change anything? Because I would just say that I would make different mistakes. So it's not like I don't regret the service, but I didn't get out of it what I thought I was gonna, if that makes sense.
Right. Yeah. Well, and yeah, it's not necessarily something you regret, but it was not what you anticipated.
Yeah, and I think a lot of people have that assumption with it. And and the free college doesn't even. It's cool because you get BAH while you're in college. So I was making like $60,000 a year tax free while in college. Right. But I did not go to college for the right things. So it's again, you have to really, really, really know what you want to do. It's that impossible decision, because when you're 18, you think you know what you want to do with your life, but you really don't know until years down the road. And I feel like that's such a commitment for something that you can't really there's your picture's frozen, by the way. No, you fucked up.
You there?
Yeah, I can't see you. I can't hear you.
Shoot. Check. Rex, you there? Oh, come on. This is not good. I want to make sure you get a chance to plug your stuff too.
Yeah. So yeah.
And we're back.
Again.
Once again.
I blame time zones now.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Dadgum time zones.
Yeah. But I feel like people aren't going to get what they want. All right, I think I don't remember where we stopped off, but I think I was saying like people aren't going to get what they want out of military service that they think they do. And I feel like you're committing yourself to something, and it's you don't really realize, you don't really know what you want to do with your life until like you're later down the line. And I feel like it's something that military service in that sense you need to that is if you still enjoy, serving the government,
Sure.
which
Yeah.
obviously I do not. When I got out, I swore I'd never do government work again.
Right.
So, it's not going to be what you think it's going to be. The movies, I feel like the best, and everyone puts their own spin on it. Like, I mean, everyone who says they're trying to make an anti-war film usually ends up accidentally making a pro-war film.
Yes.
And anyone those who do succeed at making an anti-war film, they make it more. It's so individualized that you can easily say, "Oh, that guy just had a bad experience." Like the one that comes, one that comes to mind is Jarhead, where it's like you can tell, like, by watching the movie and reading the book, like, you can tell, like, this guy should, like, he joined up being mystified for some reason by his dad, who never talked about it. At least according to the movie, he never talked about it.
Sure.
But he grew up wanting to be, and then he got in. Like, this is a guy who obviously probably never should have joined the military. Mm-hmm. And I think he even says he kind of the book is supposed to be semi-autobiographical, but it clearly makes himself as like a more of a character than like an actual direct.
Okay.
He says that he doesn't cast, like, I remember, because I'm the type of cinephile who watches movies with a DVD commentary.
Okay.
And he's in the commentary, and he doesn't refer to the character who was named after him. He always refers to him as in the third person. He never said I. He says Swaff.
Oh, sure.
So it feels more like he's telling his story, but it seems also like it's a not really fictionalized, but more artistic interpretation.
Sure. And he's keeping that separation from himself as a narrator and himself as a character,
because he obviously doesn't look back on his time in Desert Storm in a positive light.
Sure.
Which you can, that's your own, it's your character and your life. You can describe it how you want. But I feel like whenever the anti-war movies that have worked, at least in recent time, because Paths of Glory, in my opinion, worked, and that was definitely a fictionalized tale and a more grand story. But I'm thinking Platoon, the semi-autobiographical takes, which I think the only two I think of are Platoon and Jarhead.
Right.
And both of those, you have. They're not 100% accurate, and the writers and the content, the storytellers, are very honest about that for the most part.
Mm-hmm.
And then it's either so you can always rationalize it like that's just their experience. That's not everyone's experience. Yeah,
I see what you're saying. Yep. Because it's so personalized.
Yeah. And that's what I did, because I before I joined up, obviously I saw the movie Jarhead. And that movie makes you not want to, that movie does give you reservations, but you're also able to rationalize, well, this guy isn't the type that should have gone in the first place, and he's in this, that, and he does this.
A real
and
sissy.
This going on.
That's not me.
I wouldn't say real sissy, because because if you watch the movie and you pay attention, he's definitely trying to, and I'm not saying that it's inaccurate, because obviously he's now a college professor, and he wrote a book, so he's obviously not dumb.
Sure.
But he definitely portrays himself as more of like the intellectual type.
Yes.
And if you when you're paying attention, you hear some of the things that he does say, and he does try to the character does put a more like a more artistic flair to his own personal dialogue. Like he tries to, he sounds almost like he's trying to be poetic about his statements.
Sure.
Like there was a scene, like the first scene of like the oil wells going off. He says the earth is bleeding.
Oh, yes. Right.
But it's like, and then you have the other, the one that most Marines enjoy now, but the civilian world apparently can't stand, because there's never a whole lot of discussion about it, was Generation Kill.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
which I will give credence to its level of accuracy due to the amount of people who were actually there who were involved in the making process.
Right.
You know,
Right.
you have some characters who are literally playing themselves.
Right.
And then you have other guys who are very involved in the production.
Yeah.
To the point where even the battalion commander had conversations with the writer of the book about the show and things like that.
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, that would be that's really all I can say is like there's still a heavy level of mysticism, and the forces themselves are not honest about who they really are. Like they're lying to themselves about what they really are.
Sure.
Because they want to portray this one thing, but they haven't accepted the fact of what they really are.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, I don't want to end this without giving you an opportunity to tell listeners, where they can hear your melodious voice, if they so desire more often.
Melodious, my ass. I run my own. As you only got about 5 minutes left. I'll do the Cliff Notes version of the last 10 years of my life.
Go for it. Go for all of it.
Got out, did some college time, because it's surprisingly enough, New York. There's a big patriot movement following here. So that means like militias and things like that. I got wrapped up in that. That was literally a whole bunch of bullshit. I believe there's if you did listen to the Status Quo, there is an episode where I was interviewed and we talked about that a bit.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'll have to check that out.
Yes. So I distanced myself from that, but as you're wearing a biting the bullet hat, so I'm going to go ahead and automatically assume that there's the people listening here running those circles. I do a podcast where I try to give the lessons learned from those experiences for people who do want to, be a little bit more independent in their lives and be a little bit more self-sufficient and, organize their own community protection in their own, groups like that. Podcast is called Glowing Eye Philosophy. It's on Spotify. It's not yet on iTunes because I don't know how to figure that out yet.
Right.
It's very rudimentary as of right now.
Sure.
I want to bring in a co-host because it's really weird just talking to yourself. I'm on Instagram at you can just type in T-Rex Shenanigans or Glowing Eye Philosophy. Those are both of my Instagram accounts. I am on Twitter to some extent. Follow me there at Guns Shenanigans. Just replace the S's with Z's, and you'll probably find me. But yeah, that's pretty much it. That's about all I got for you at the moment. We can continue this for
the glowing. Yeah. You said the Glowing Eye Philosophy.
Yeah, just like the glowing.
E-Y-E?
Yeah, okay. Those are. That's all. That's spelt exactly as it sounds.
Okay.
The origins of the name came from I needed something that wasn't already taken,
Yes.
and a lot of the big igloo type, goon type memes usually involve a character with eyes that are glowing.
Right.
The opening music, when you have friends who have bands, or friends who used to have bands who are in your group, it makes it easier to get music. So if you actually pay attention to the actual song that's at the opening and end credits of my my shit, there's a little bit more of a cross thing there because they mentioned that.
Oh, nice.
It's totally not related in terms of where they were coming from with the song, but it fucking worked, so I took it.
Right. Yeah. The nuances of each podcast show and how people organize it intrigue me. Like you're saying, like the music or whatever. What people may not realize, or maybe they do, when you have a creative endeavor, every little detail means something to you, even if it doesn't to those viewing it or listening to it. Everything that you're doing and every decision you make is for a reason and means something. And to the listener, they're just, right over.
Oh yeah. If you actually listen to any of my episodes from the very, 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 very beginning to the end of the runtime, like the absolute end of the runtime, there are so many layered references that I don't think a single person gets but me.
Sure. Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, but yeah, that's it for me.
Well, cool. Yeah, no, I really appreciate the time, and I appreciate you struggling through the technological issues that we had here. And I think what it was is the internet heard you bragging about your technological expertise, and it said, take this.
Yeah.
No, probably not. No.
Technological expertise to call tech support.
Yes, yeah. And look at this. We worked through it and didn't have to make a single phone call.
Yep.
So there we go. Cool. Right. Yeah, thanks, man. I appreciate it. That was a blast.
Yep.
Yeah. Stay dangerous. Oh, hey, let me stop this real quick. Thank you for listening to this episode of How I Embraced the Suck. If you enjoyed the show, tell a friend. And as my Girl Scout den mother used to say, stay frosty.
And then I'll lay on my bed instead of walking over to my desk where I am at now. And then next thing you know, I'm like, I'm done.